Melissa Gilbert just decided to say, and why she waited so long to say it. Melissa Gilbert grew up in front of a camera, so you might think there's nothing left for her to be private about. But here's the twist. The stories that stick with you aren't always the loudest ones. They're the quiet, private lessons learned the hard way. Melissa's life reads like a classic coming-of-age drama. Adopted into a showbiz family, launched into stardom at 9, and forever tied to a role that made her a household name. But fame is messy, and the thing she finally opened up about at 61 wasn't just about success. It was about seeing someone else's pain, and how that reflection changed her. Melissa Gilbert became a star playing Laura Ingalls Wilder on Little House on the Prairie. That role made her the sweet, stubborn kid millions loved, half-pint to some, a symbol of warm family values to many. But growing up on a set like that doesn't inoculate you from the pressures of Hollywood. Instead, it exposes you to them early and often. The scrutiny, the expectations, the sense that your worth depends on how well you perform both on-screen and off. Melissa told stories of being shaped by that world, how it can give you everything and still leave you reaching for something steadier. If we're honest, another person's story haunted her, Patty Duke. For younger viewers, Patty's name might evoke brilliance and intensity, and for good reason. She was fearless in her craft, the kind of actor who tore open a performance and made you feel like you were watching someone bleed on stage. But behind that talent was a life marked by real struggle, the kind of mental health battles and personal turmoil that the industry was poorly equipped to handle. Melissa didn't speak ill of Patty. What she offered was perspective. She finally allowed herself to say out loud the compassion she felt for someone whose rise and fall she'd observed up close. Melissa paints her early understanding as, well, incomplete. As a kid on set, she and other young actors noticed Patty's mood swings and her intensity and chalked it up to being difficult or being dramatic. But years later, after confronting her own addiction issues and the highs and lows that come with being famous young, Melissa saw things differently. What looked like temperament from the cheap seats often masked deeper wounds. Patty's candidness about bipolar disorder later in life, her willingness to tell the truth about her pain, became a mirror for Melissa. It showed that survival sometimes looks like choosing to speak, even when speaking is terrifying. Here's the part that makes this more than celebrity gossip. Melissa uses Patty's story as a caution and as a guide. She didn't simply say, "Patty struggled." She said, "I watched, I learned, and it changed how I show up." That's huge. It's one thing to admire someone's work. It's another to let their life alter your own choices. For Melissa, Patty's later openness about mental illness and recovery didn't just inspire empathy. It gave her permission to heal in public too. That's why Melissa's truth matters. It's not an exposé, it's a testament to growth, to recognizing the human behind the headlines and letting that recognition reshape your life. The arc of Melissa's life after Little House proves the point. She didn't vanish. She made brave, often raw choices, tackling dramatic roles like Helen Keller opposite Patty years earlier, serving as president of the Screen Actors Guild, and writing candid memoirs that peeled back the glossy veneer of celebrity life. Her memoirs and public talks didn't aim to shock. They aimed to humanize. They were an effort to say, mistakes happen, addiction happens, pain happens, but so does recovery, and so does the ability to help someone else by telling your story. Melissa's personal life is part of that message. She married, divorced, remarried, became a mother, and rebuilt moves that sound ordinary until you remember they unfolded under public scrutiny. She married Bruce Boxleitner, raised children, and later found a quieter life with Timothy Busfield. Those names aren't plot points. They're reminders that lives continue, messy and beautiful, after the show ends. She moved from Los Angeles to small-town Michigan and later to New York City, trying on different rhythms of life, and in doing so, learning how to be anchored to family and self, not just to a role. When Melissa speaks about Patty Duke, the emotion is not condemnation. It's something softer, wiser, reverence mixed with sorrow. She admires Patty's artistry and mourns the hardships that came with it. More importantly, she recognizes that the industry that made them also failed some of the people it spotlighted. Melissa's decision to tell the truth now and to frame it in the language of empathy rather than sensationalism is a kind of reparative act. It says, we can honor the art without glossing over the cost. We can celebrate talent without ignoring suffering. And most importantly, we can learn. This conversation is timely because society is finally catching up to what Patty lived through. The need to destigmatize mental health, to offer real support instead of quick fixes, and to treat young performers as children first. Melissa's words add weight to that shift. She isn't rewriting anyone's life. She's adding context and humanity. She's saying, from a place of decades of experience, look closer, care harder, and speak when silence does more harm than good. So, what's the takeaway? If Melissa's honesty teaches us anything, it's this. Seeing someone struggle isn't a call to judge, it's an invitation to act, to listen, to learn, and maybe to tell our own truths when we're ready. That's the real legacy here. Not just remembering the roles they played, but honoring the people who played them. If you stuck with this, here's one last thought. Celebrities aren't mythic figures, they're neighbors with better press agents. When they choose to open up, it's an opportunity, not a spectacle. Melissa chose to speak, and in doing so, she handed us a map for how to be kinder, more honest, and more brave, even if that bravery comes decades late. If this story landed with you, do something small but meaningful. Share it with someone who needs to hear that recovery and compassion are possible. And hey, if you want more stories like this honest, human, and a little bit surprising, hit like and subscribe. It helps more of these conversations find the people who need them most.